Project Power is a 2020 American superhero Netflix movie that stars Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and newcomer Dominique Fishback in the lead roles. The movie takes place in New Orleans and tells the story of a new type of power drug that grants unpredictable superpowers for 5 minutes to those who take it. Granted, I did not know a movie like this was being made. I saw a few trailers floating around YouTube and I didn't get a chance to watch it. So I literally went into this movie blind and I was not expecting anything. The movie for most part is something unique and different than other superhero movies that we are accustomed to. So this whole premise of this movie revolves around a new miracle drug that can grant unpredictable power to those who take it. It's sort of like every person's power is unique to themselves, and the person who just takes that pill will activate that inherent power within him. For example, one person has a power to combust into flames, another has the power to be as hard as a rock, and other can turn invisible. But it is also unpredictable in a way that sometimes while taking the drug you can just freaking explode or die instantly. So Jamie Foxx's character is an ex-army major who's on a mission to find his daughter who was kidnapped by the same people who make these drugs. So he goes from one drug dealer to another to find clues that can help him leading to find the whereabouts of his daughter. In the meantime, we are also introduced to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character who plays a cop who is headstrong against fighting those who abuse the power of the pill, and to do that he must rely on a young drug dealer played by Dominique Fishback to get her to supply him the power pills so he can even the playing field by getting powers of his own. One thing leads to another and all three of them meet up by chance and together plan to take down the giant corporation that makes these drugs and then to rescue their daughter. The story premise is very interesting and compelling, I'll give it that. The whole idea of a drug that can grant you superpowers for 5 minutes is very intriguing and exciting. All the three actors in this movie do a good job. Jamie Foxx is ridiculously good in this movie. He stands out the most and has the most compelling story arc. This is his movie and he delivers the most he can give on screen. His acting has depth and character and brings good amount of screen presence. It was nice seeing Joseph Gordon-Levitt in a movie after such a long time. The last I've seen him was in Snowden. I think he did a recent movie called 7500. In this movie he plays as a cop. Not the best role he could have gotten, especially compared to the roles he played in Inception and Looper, but he does give it a solid performance even though the role is very generic and not the most complex one he could play. We also get to see a new face, Dominique Fishback, who is pretty much the center character of this movie. She has been in a few television shows before and I think she did 1 or 2 movies before this. She also does an incredible job with the acting. Her role is very good and she brings a lot of power to the role, and enough to stand head to head with Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Her acting shows lots of promise and I hope she gets more roles like this in the future. The movie starts off well. The first act of this movie has a good plot device. It sets up the story very well. We get some good action scenes and cinematography with good pacing. I was amazed at the way the movie was shot, and the way they show how the power pill starts taking effect and the action scenes that ensue it is pretty fun to watch. The first fight scene where Jamie Foxx is fighting this blazing fire dude inside a building is very cool, and a few other scenes after that is also very good to watch. And then as soon as we get to the second act, the movie falls flat. The writing is horrendous and it shows. The story is messy and nothing interesting happens in terms of story. There is no substance to the script and most of the dialogue and action in this movie is pointless. The movie lags a lot and picks up only slightly in a few action scenes. Although a few of those action scenes also seem pale in comparison to the ones in the opening act. I can't say whether this was an intentional or a plain lazy on the part of the filmmakers. I mean, come on, you had a good pace going on and then all of a sudden you hit the brakes. The story and the plot feels very generic. The action gets boring and the execution is very lackluster. By the time we get to the end of this movie, you start to think what is the point of this whole movie. They were building up to a thrilling showdown towards the end of the movie, and when the end comes, it's just bland as hell. It's like any other action movie which you probably watched countless times over. Not getting into spoiler territory here, but if you watched it, then you know what I'm talking about. Even the CGI and visual effects take a hit in the middle and somehow make up for it in the end. I don't know if this was a budget problem or a creative decision, but you can see that the creators had something else planned entirely. I can confidently say that the script has problems. I mean, the director of this movie does give his best in the scenes and it shows. The direction is very good with the way some action scenes are shot and executed, and the way some fight scenes take place is a visual treat and looks amazing on screen. So if you want to blame anyone for the lackluster second act or the third act, then you can definitely blame the scriptwriters. I mean, this movie has a lot of potential to shine and be great. I have to admit that when I watched this movie, it intrigued me with its opening act and world building. There are just so many things in this movie that showed promise, and the lore of this whole concept of a drug that can grant unpredictable power is so compelling and interesting. It's just a big letdown that this movie decides to neglect all of that in favor of a generic rescue that girl story that you have probably watched countless times already. You already had a good story and premise, but no, let's throw that out the window and do the most boring ending we can possibly think of. It's hard to say what the filmmakers were thinking while doing this movie. There is some comedy in this movie, and most of the time it just falls flat. It's probably a hit or miss depending on how easy you are to please. But there are some good heartfelt moments between Jamie Foxx and Dominique Fishback that feel genuine and powerful. Also, the soundtrack in this movie is really good. The choice of music and songs add a good dynamic to the movie that goes well with the story and the style of the movie. That is probably the only few things that really stand out. Everything else is just bland and generic. Coming to the verdict, this movie has a lot going for it. An interesting story and concept. The direction in this movie is very stylistic and eye-catching. The cinematography is amazing, and the three lead actors have a good chemistry to tie the movie together. But a lack of a clear direction in script and story make this movie lackluster to watch and does not provide anything new or noteworthy to stick around till the end. The ending is also very generic and doesn't quite stick the landing. It's a crying shame because you can tell a lot of thought has gone behind this movie, and somewhere in this execution it gets lost entirely. A lot of interesting things in this movie were left unexplored and neglected, which could have added some layers to and opened some counter plot lines that could have added more depth and made this bland movie at least a bit more interesting to watch. But alas, what a wasted opportunity. I would rate this movie a 6 out of 10. If they do make a sequel to this movie and explore the lore a bit more deeper, I might give it a shot. Or probably, or maybe not. Let's just hope that they do. So if you haven't watched this movie, you can check it out. It's streaming right now on Netflix. If you enjoyed watching this review, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. If you want to be notified whenever a new video is up, please hit the notification bell icon to stay notified. That's it for the end of this video. Stay safe and stay awesome, you guys. See you in the next video. Bye.